Hello, hello, Ryan here again, continuing this exploration, this creative recovery. If you've been following along, we're starting with story, and there's some important reasons for that. I have experienced that the stories that we tell ourselves are not only our communication with the outside world, they're also our communication with ourselves. They are the spells we cast, literally, the words that we use. The spelling of those words are spells that we cast on ourselves. They can be telling us who we are, what our limitations are, what happened to us. They can create plot lines of maybe victimhood, maybe heroism. They are the language, the liquid that we're all dissolved in. So to start working with our story is a fundamental first step, a first piece. And why stories? Well, like I said, it's a way for us to own our own life. When it's all just kind of up here and it's all kind of ethereal, where we have these fragments of stories that come out in conversation. For me in the past, it was a lot of blurts. Because I had a lot of hurts. So when someone brought up something that was a doorway for me to share a painful experience or something that helped me define myself in a time when maybe I didn't have a lot of definition, the stories would come out in blurts, in shares. Maybe if someone would say, "Oh, I'm having a hard time with my business. This and this is happening," and I would be like, "Oh gosh, when I was running my business, we had this, we had that, this guy did this, we were over here, over there," and it's just this like compulsive oversharing. And part of that, I think, is a desire to be seen, a desire to affirm what we know in the mirror of someone else. But if that's the only way that we're sharing is in these kind of, where can I sneak this in here? Where can I sneak this in here? Or maybe you go to a therapist, or you have a partner or a friend that you have beers with, and you sit and you share this story. There's that editorialization that can happen in those moments, that when we actually pause to take ownership of our story, things can really shift and change. Things can be rewritten. We can see ourselves more clearly. And as a daily practice, for me, over the last 3 years, I have completely opened the ceiling, opened this imaginary box that I was previously in. The feeling of trappedness, the feeling of victimhood, or just being too tired to even imagine doing something again. As I started to write, as I started to take control of my story, I felt all of the expansive possibility and power. It's interesting when we write our story of the past, it's like we're looking right at it. And there's even some cultures, there's some Native American cultures that have themselves flipped on the timeline. Like, I don't know about you, but I've always thought of myself looking forward into the future on this timeline, and I'm looking forward, and behind me is the past. Well, actually, what's in front of us is the past. That's what we can look at. That's what we can see and point to and say, "Oh, remember that. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at how these dots connect." And the future, in a way, is behind us, and we can't see it. It's completely unknown, and it's kind of rushing past us in this present moment and becoming the past, and then it's in front of us. But we have our backs to the future. And so this writing, this story, these tools that I'm going to start opening up and sharing, I think are a way to orient ourselves so that we're not just plowing headfirst into the unknown abyss with these little fragments behind us that are just maybe chirping here and there, like, I don't know, wild birds or stray dogs, but actually taking the time to see our life, see what's in front of us, even in a daily kind of context. So how? The basic tool that I'd like to share is not my own tool. I did not invent this. This is a Julia Cameron tool that she's been using with the Artist Way and the Artist Way communities for, I think at this point, 40 years or more. And so thousands and thousands of people, and even huge artists and creators and business people, have used this exact tool over the last 40 years. People that you know. They have effectively used morning pages as a way to clarify, to process, to get the brain drain out early in the day so that the rest of the day is clear for the opportunity and the intention and the presence. And so I actually have my copy right here of The Artist's Way. I highly recommend if you're interested. You don't have to be an artist like a painter or a musician or anything like that. I think this is a great book for anyone who is creative, which everyone really is. But the first tool that she presents here is the first one that I want to start working with in this community, and that is morning pages. So what are morning pages? They are 3 pages, handwritten, every morning before you start your day. And I know that might sound like a lot. I know that sounds like a commitment. Try it. Commit to it. Try it. Make the commitment that you'll at least try it. Get yourself a composition notebook or even just loose sheets of paper. It is important that it's handwritten. I know the impulse is to, type on the keyboard or type on the phone. It's maybe faster, maybe cleaner, maybe you can archive it better. There's all of these reasons why, the digital seems like the better way to do it. But this is what Julia says, and I can corroborate that doing it by hand and having that physical expression, that physical experience, I can tell. I've been doing morning pages now for 4 years. I've filled 11 notebooks, and I can tell just by how my handwriting is what the state of my brain is. I can see that shift. I can see these even monthly patterns that shift with, sitting down every morning and writing 3 pages. What are the 3 pages about? Anything. It's just a free-flowing conscious exercise. You just write. You write maybe, I always start with the date and the day, and then I just start writing. Sometimes it's about my dreams. Sometimes it's about just the first thought I have or the first smell that comes into my nose. Or if you don't have anything to write, you can just sit there and write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. You can just write it over and over like Bart Simpson. But what happens is, this is what has happened to me, is I was in a place where I had very little sense of self. I had only these stories clunking around, all of this anger, all of these emotions. I didn't know how to access them. And just by sitting down and writing every morning, and whenever you need to, but certainly every morning, just moving that energy, putting it somewhere, closing the cover on it, and getting into your day. This is like the filter. This is the recycling kind of power that we have. And in writing morning pages, what will happen is you will start to see your life as the story that it is unfolding, and not just set in stone. All of this stuff has already happened, and now here I am, and I'm just at the mercy of whatever happens next. It's like, wow, I have the power to write what happened. I can revisit it. I can change it. I can see new angles of it. I can be writing. And as I look to my future, I can write what I'm interested in. I can write who I'm interested in, what I want to be working on, who I want to be working with. And that intention, and just starting from that small movement, is a momentum builder. It just flexes that creative muscle in this way that is low stakes. No one is supposed to see these, read these. This is not something that you're sharing. You're not posting this on Instagram. You're not giving it to a partner or a friend and saying, hey, look at this thing I wrote. This is purely for you. So you can bitch, you can rant, you can vent, you can say horrible things. You can be as crude as you actually are. You can just, whatever it is that needs to move, you can move it. Okay, so that's the basic. 3 pages handwritten daily. I suggest you commit to doing it right now. Do it tomorrow morning. Just get yourself a notebook today and start writing and see what happens, and just commit to it. I promise there is some magic in this very, very basic tool. And when I remember to the very beginning of doing The Artist's Way, the first assignment, kind of weekly task that really had a big effect on me was to write to my child self. So if you need another little writing prompt, this can go in your morning pages, or it could just be an exercise that you could do right now. But again, working with the power of story. Think of an age think of a time when you were your most innocent, pure, authentic, expressive self. Maybe that was 4 years old, maybe that was 10 years old, maybe that was 20 years old, whatever that was. Maybe it was last week, doesn't matter. Write to that version of yourself. Just write. Just dear, your name. I say, dear little Ryan, and I wrote. And that first writing that I did to my little self, that page was covered with tears. It was so cathartic, and I got to apologize, and I got to yeah, I'm not going to say too much about my experience because I'm encouraging you to do it. So that's the first little part. Why story? Own our lives. How do we do it? Morning pages is a great tool. Every morning, get up a little bit early before the day really starts, before you make breakfast, or if you have families or businesses or jobs to get to, before all of that rush starts, just get up a little early, sit with a notebook, and just write whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. Um, just start writing. And if you need a first prompt, write to your child self. Just see what happens. Okay, that's where we're going to leave it today. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, cheers.